Are you tired of watching shows that only give you general social media theory and expect you to figure out how to apply it to your own industry? Join us for this week's episode of Social Chatter, the industry's longest running social media marketing news talk show. Not only will you learn the latest breaking news, but you'll also gain practical advice on how to apply it. Now here's your host, Christian Karasevich.
Welcome everyone to Social Chatter, your weekly social media marketing news talk show. I'm Christian Karasevich, and we've got a lot of great topics we're going to talk about this week in terms of social media. There's a lot going on in the industry. There's always something going on every single week, whether it's a small change or a big change. We try to bring you the latest breaking news each week. So with that, I'm going to go and bring on Sarah, have her introduce our guest. And coincidentally, I actually was on a show with our guest and the person who does the voiceover for our intro. So Sarah, it is great having you back here with me. How you doing?
I'm great. And spring, you said social media news, what's springing to life are all of the rules and following the rules for this upcoming summer and fall. I know there's a lot of things happening in the world, and the social media platforms are starting to crack down on the rules. But first, we want to bring on our guest, Julia Jornsay-Silverberg, who is a social media consultant, a coach, and you mentioned she works at one of Inc.'s top best places to work of 2022, now marketing with Jessica Phillips.
Definitely.
So welcome, Julia.
Thank you guys so much for being here. I am so happy to be here. As Christian said, Christian was on Jessica and Mike's show this week, Magnet Marketers. So I just love the timing that now I get to be on your guys' show.
Yeah.
Glad to have you. So, Sarah, I know we got a jam-packed show. I know we've got hard stop as well. Yep. I'm going to turn it over to you. We're going to kick things off, and we're going to hear from Julia a little later in the show as well, right?
Yep. And Julia is going to jump in on these news topics too. So let's get rolling with Twitter. Twitter has been in the news a lot, but we're going to talk about something completely different that's happening with Twitter. And that is they are cleaning up a lot of their spam tweets. So I think a lot of us who've been on Twitter, a lot of things that turn people off from Twitter is the spam tweets that are coming through. And it's actually duplicative content. Say that 5 times fast, right? So this duplicate content that's on Twitter, we've all seen it, that it's the same message, just retweeted and retweeted. So what this actually does is it artificially amplifies these tweets. And for the most part, they are bots, or they are people who are getting paid just to spam this out. We're seeing it a lot in the crypto world right now, and a few other places, but it is definitely out there. And here's Twitter's tweet about it. And little reference to their rules and standards that they want people to follow. And what the industry term for this is called copy pasta. And so Twitter has refreshed their copy pasta, which is basically a cute little phrase for the copy and paste that goes on with these kinds of tweets. So we actually have the definition of copy pasta in a slide here. Direct from Twitter in their rules, where they explain what copy pasta is. And we'll actually tweet out this policy too, so that everybody can see what this actually does. So it's basically duplicating the content. And what Twitter says, what they're going to start doing is penalizing people who use this copy pasta policy. So what that means for penalties is that you will be ineligible to appear on top search and the trends pages. You won't be recommended to non-followers. Your tweets will also be downranked, especially with the replies. And you'll be excluded from email and recommended tweets as well. So if this happens a lot with a particular account, it will be flagged for review. They're not really talking about suspensions unless they really find some very clear violations when it comes to this. So I think it's great. I think it's cleaning up Twitter is going to be a fantastic thing for the platform. One concern that I have is that this copy and paste is often done with advocacy campaigns. And so let's remember things like the Black Lives Matter movement really started through the use of some of these techniques of copying and pasting to amplify the message. We've also seen it happen with Bring Back Our Girls, when young women in Africa were kidnapped. So that's my concern. Coming from the space of advocacy and nonprofits, I am sure there are people in the political space that have other things to say, and folks in the sales space too that are concerned about this. So I'll open it up to you two and what you think about copy pasta rules enforcement.
Julia, you want to take that one?
I definitely think that I think it makes a lot of sense, right? Because Twitter wants to cut back on that spam, on things feeling like they're bots, on duplicative content, like you said. But I do agree that it might be hard for advocacy campaigns, all of that stuff. It's going to require, I think, a little bit more effort from brands to make sure that you're finding a way to uniquely tweak a message, even ever so slightly, so that you are not potentially getting flagged. And also, when you think about it in the way of, if you tweak that message a little bit, it might be a way for you to kind of get that message more aligned with your brand voice. So I do see it as an opportunity for brands, although I think it will create some more work.
I got to say the other side to this, I think so you mentioned it, just, tweaking a message. Just keep in mind, you can't just like use the same message and change the usernames that are tagged as well. That's something that apparently is going to get picked up on too, which actually makes me wonder, a lot of companies, they send out, a tweet that they want the company employees to amplify. And a lot of time, and that creates that whole echo chamber. I wonder how much that's going to play into this as well. Because technically, you're going to have the same message going out from all your employees. So right. I don't know, does that factor in at all?
Well, all of us who create the share kits, right? Yeah. That we create share kits that we send out to our advocates, our ambassadors, our employees, what that's going to mean with Twitter. Because I certainly do it with Facebook and Instagram. And Facebook there's been little whispers of this over the last few months of them testing it. And we all know that Google does it. Yeah. Right. Google will flag duplicate content. So, it's going to be interesting how we advise people when we're asking them to share things, how we advise them to customize it for themselves.
Well, and to that point, a lot of times, what you would typically do is you would compose, a kit that you would send out, and you would have that pre-built tweet, as you mentioned. And a lot of times we do that because we want people to, we don't want we kind of want to give them something to start with, but we also want them to take the time to actually write their own. And I think for a lot of people, I think they take the shortcut, I guess. Maybe it's not the shortcut in this case.
It's not really a shortcut. No, it's people are busy. People are busy, and we're asking them to do something. And it takes some time. And especially when it's a big advocacy campaign, it's really hard to write something unique each and every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially because you're limited with your characters on Twitter too. It's not like Facebook or LinkedIn where you have an endless amount. You've got to fit your message in a concise way. So I do think it's an added challenge.
Yeah. And I think it's a good challenge because it forces you to have to think.
Yep.
But we'll see how that kind of plays out. Sarah, is there anything else you want to add about this? Anything else we want to?
No, that's really it. We are going to talk a little bit about what Meta is doing. And I think some of these policies, for those of us who are in North America, some of these policies may be a little strange if we don't think of it in the context of all of the new laws that are coming out in the European Union, that those who are in Europe have really been living with these kinds of policies, and also much more intense privacy policies and personal protections. And so this is new to us in North America, but certainly not new worldwide, and something that's very much at the forefront of every platform.
Fantastic. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you. Where do we go next?
Sure. We're going to do a quick little piece on Twitter super follow spaces. Woo,
yes.
Tongue twisters.
Try saying
today.
that one. Yes, that one.
I know. I know. So this is something that Twitter is rolling out for their super followers is that you are going to be able to allow your super follows to have their own dedicated space. So rather than having to have your super followers buy a ticket and have ticketed spaces, they've just created this new feature for your Twitter Spaces. And I love how this little reel that we're playing right now sort of starts with that initial idea tweet, and Twitter responds saying, "That's a great idea. So here we are. We're taking away the tickets and adding it." So it's just a nice little feature to reward your super follows. So I don't really know that a lot of people use this feature yet. What are you two? Well, we obviously we broadcast onto Twitter Spaces as well with this show. How about you, Julia?
I am not doing too much with Twitter Spaces yet, but I love this because I think that this is just an incredible functionality as a way for creators to provide more value and exclusive content to their super fans. That is going to incentivize people to want to give you that, be a super follower. And it's also just a great way for you to continue to like build that relationship and get closer to your community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, this is, I mean, I think, again, I mean, I like these features. I like how they kind of also tie into, you know, the Twitter spam that we talked about, you know, and how you really don't want to run afoul of those rules because, you know, I think at some point they're going to play across everything that Twitter's doing on their platform, whatever that ends up being with, you know, if Elon ends up buying it or whatnot. So, So Sarah,
yeah,
turn it back over to you.
Absolutely. So let's move on. I sort of teased that Meta is changing some things, or at least they've reported out how they are enforcing some of their rules and standards. So this week, Meta rolled out their community standards enforcement report. So this is tracking how they're doing in following the community standards that they say that they're going to follow. And I think one thing as we talk about this data, I think we really need to understand that we're seeing some of these peaks because the technology has advanced so much. The AI within the Meta properties are so much more advanced now, and they're also looking for this too, right? So when you look for things, the data is going to go up too. That said, we already know that there is a lot of negativity on social media. And so now we're just tracking it, right? So what this report really details is their detection of the misuse and abuse and what they've been doing about it, right? So like I said, the improved detection technology, also looking for these things. They're starting to see how they're taking down spam, how they're tracking how much hate and terrorism content has been coming up. And so what their data is really what it all boils down to is they're really seeing about 0.05% of content seems to be violating these rules or is negative or abusive content. So what that means is out of 10,000 views of content, about 5 are violating their policies. And that's what they're seeing right now. Again, I think as this technology gets more advanced, that they will be finding more and will be able to take down more. So it's a really interesting thing to see how they are starting to really track things like hate speech, self-harm, and suicide to see what they can actually do about it. And one thing that we don't think about is that Meta employs a lot of data scientists. And so their work is coming to light now. So what do you guys think about this?
Julie, you want to take that one?
I was just going to say, I'll let you take this one.
Neither of us
want
to take
to hear
one,
what
right?
you have to say first.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I'm always going to say that I've always said this, you know, when a lot of the social media platforms, when they roll out rules, you got to follow them, you know, and the thing is, it may seem like, oh, well, you know, oh, I'm a small company, they're not going to do anything, you know, or like, it doesn't matter if you're a small company, a large brand, it really doesn't matter, you know, follow the rules, you know, whether that's creating accounts, whether it's, you know, their policies, you know, because again, you never know how those are going to impact your business in the long run. I think that's a key takeaway on all of this. Because again, the more you like the more you do that does potentially violate something, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, I did that when I first got started. You never know where they're going to go. And, as you can see, like Twitter's rolling out all these new features, they're doing things to try to get the platforms into shape, and they take time. And so you always just kind of want to just be on the up and up. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Christian, to your point too, it's like these platforms change and evolve so quickly. So just making sure that you're staying up with all of these new features, functionality, rules, best practices, that's critical so that you're not getting yourself in trouble and so that you're taking advantage of the opportunities available.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anything else you want to add?
And well, I've listened to some interviews with some of the founders of, not Jack Dorsey, but the other founders of Twitter. And they have been talking about how they really started it as a way to share information. And we can go into the origin story of Facebook and how it may not have been as positive, but then became a more positive, very quickly became a more positive sharing site. I think the folks who built these systems didn't really think about how they could be abused. And also, humans aren't built to be so connected either, right? We're not built for all of this information. And so we're still grappling with that. And the platforms are trying, sometimes our worst selves come out on it. And we need to keep that in check. If you weren't going to say something to someone's face, would you say it online, kind of thing? Now, just this week, we're hearing about stories of some folks, some business owners who do say negative and hateful things to people face to face, and that has gotten them a lot of negative attention on review sites and on social media. So, yeah, we're going to see how this goes. I think anything that will improve mental health, I think, is a good thing.
By the way, before we move into the next topic, I want to make sure we highlight NLTMW's comment. It says, hey, and this is a great point, actually. If you build your brand on their platform and then they claim that you violated their changing rules, you can lose all that you've worked for. And that makes that's a great point, actually, because we always tell people never build on rented land. And again, that's an excellent point. A lot of people, right. I know Julia, like when people first got started, they wouldn't build a website, and it's like, well, yeah, you should still have your own website, right? So I know Jessica's always about, having your own property.
Yes.
So, yeah. Okay.
And
Sarah,
Julia has a beautiful website, by the way.
Well, thank you.
We'll get to that.
Some great blog content. Yes, exactly. So yes, another piece about Meta, more related toward Facebook, and that is Facebook is going to, at the end of this month, Facebook is going to disable nearby friends and weather. So we know this may sound like just why would they disable the weather? Well, the weather near you is tracking your location. So what this is saying is the bigger picture of what Facebook and Meta is doing just in general is cracking down a little bit more on the privacy, or making it harder for people to find out where you are and where you check in. This is going to be a huge concern for some folks who especially are in the reproductive health spaces. There's a lot of people who are concerned about the apps tracking locations. Now, that's to say, the app may still be looking for your location. They're just not going to display any features connected with it. So we'll see. This isn't, a great advance in the privacy, but at least it's a step forward. They are also going to, it sounds like by August, they're going to turn off your location history and your background history. So again, those location services are diminishing. I'm wondering if this has something to do with the metaverse announcement that they also had this week, if they're staging all of their properties for some greater privacy within the whole metaverse. To use their own phrases, right?
That's very interesting. Yes. The fact that they're going to, I think for a lot of people, I think iOS kind of kicked a lot of this off, when they started, trying to restrict like tracking for ads and things like that. again, ads like location. Again, I think people are starting to realize, this comes back to what you just said, Sarah, a minute ago, which is the fact that people like the platforms may have been built for good, but then now people are using them for nefarious purposes. Mm-hmm. And so now I think users are starting to understand, well, hey, you know what? I don't necessarily need to broadcast my location for the weather or things like that. Or understanding, like, do I allow this app to track me? Do I not allow it to track me? And yeah, there's some benefits to it, but there's also, a lot more that can be taken away from it, I think. Mm-hmm. So Julia, anything else you want to add on this?
I think people are just becoming a little bit more wary about how much of their personal information is being shared with all of these apps. So I think that this makes so much sense to see Facebook moving in that direction.
Mm-hmm. I think it is going to be interesting because I appreciate the weather. I don't use the Facebook weather location services, but I do use my weather app locations and the emergency alert systems too, right?
Yeah.
That if you've ever been with a group of people when an emergency alert comes out and there are sirens all around you, right? It's important. I think it's important, but I think there are a lot of privacy issues that we need to dig a little deeper into that we may not be thinking about. So
another good comment, by the way, coming in from NLTMW says, ask app not to track. I always assume that it is tracking me. Absolutely. And sometimes they need it like once, sometimes they need it, anytime you're running the app, sometimes, you can just disable it completely, but, sometimes you have to give your location to get the right information. So,
Yep, you do. All right. Like the weather.
Absolutely, right.
And I have to say, when the tornado warning comes off, it's like, okay, where am I? What do I need to do? So very good uses for some of these location tracking pieces.
So I think we got a couple of news topics, right?
More? Let's do a couple more, and I'm just going to lightning round them. Sure. So LinkedIn news. So LinkedIn's audio rooms, remember, this is something that is still very much in the beta stage and not rolled out to all of the people who are using creator mode. But they are going to add real-time captioning for their audio spaces. So captioning will be running simultaneously, which will be great for folks, of course, for folks who have a hearing impairment, but also folks who like to just have things quietly running in the background and not let people know what they're listening to. So they are going to do that. There's a lot more in this announcement too. They're launching some new features, some more services for highlighting content, for customizing URLs. So we really recommend that you see this post. I think one thing that's very cool that was part of this announcement is that they are rolling out some LinkedIn Learning Lives in the next few weeks. It started this week. Every Wednesday, they're going to have some content from some top people to help you develop your career or professional development. From the likes of like Dan Ariely, who is a fantastic researcher on how we make decisions. So I would say definitely check that out. The other piece, YouTube Shorts has rolled out a green screen feature. So if you're a TikTok user, you're going to find this very familiar. So basically what it does is let you take a 60-second segment from another video, and then you can lay yourself over it as if you're commenting on what's going on behind you. So very much a TikTok feature coming to YouTube. If you are a regular YouTube watcher like me, you'll see that shorts are exploding even more. So this is a fun little tool. They're also going to add some more things like retouching, lighting, alignment, filters, all kinds of stuff to make it a little more fun for the YouTube shorts and keep people on YouTube.
I got to say, out of that, I think YouTube is probably, I like the idea. I'm glad we're finally starting to tap into the power of a mobile device, because it's pretty cool that you could do a green screen replacement from a mobile device with, for example, in this case, another video and whatnot. So love the idea of that and just how much easier it's making it to create content. So Julia, anything else you want to add on either of these topics?
I love that point. I think that just the easier we can make it for people to create, and especially with short form content, because we're seeing short form content is blowing up everywhere, you know, whether you're on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, short form content is like just taking the world by storm. I think that this is what people are loving because it feels relatable, it's short and easy to digest, and it's just like there's so much creativity happening in the short form content market right now that I just think it's really cool to see the platforms continue to evolve their functionality to let people be creative.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And something I noticed this week actually is that the YouTube clip function came back. We talked about this several months ago, how they were testing it and rolling it out. It is definitely there. So go check that out if there's some pieces that you want to clip. For instance, I had a client interviewed. I'm not going to post the whole video, the whole 20-minute interview on Instagram, but what I can now do is clip that center section and use it as a short and drop it onto Instagram for a reel too.
And I want to make sure we clarify clips. By clipping, we don't mean like cutting off parts of a video. You know, that's the other thing. It's a really cool feature. Just know that it's not like, oh, I'm trimming the end and the beginning or whatever. It's literally pulling out that section.
It's you being able to clip someone else's video. You can take a clip out of their video and use it.
And you
which
can
also means
you can turn it off, right?
Yes, you can turn it off. So as you're uploading videos, you can set this in your controls. So remember to check that out if it is showing up on your videos and you don't want people to clip it, to be sure to turn that off in your controls. What you have to do is scroll down when you're putting in your descriptions and things, go down to the advanced options, and it's a little further down in that. Definitely.
Awesome. Well, a lot of good social media news to cover this week, but I think we've got some more questions, right, Sarah?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We've been hinting at it a little bit today as we're talking about people being good citizens, so to speak, on social media, but really just being good humans, right? Not being spammy, not being negative, not spreading hate or misguided content, right? And so something that Julia talks about is being human on social media. And actually, Julia, you have the human to you is an acronym. So why don't we start with breaking down that acronym and what that actually means?
Okay, I love it. So I just fully believe that the more that we are humans online, the more we're going to be able to build relationships and create real connections with people. So I love an acronym. And so the way that I like to think about the humans system is what I like to call it. It starts with H, which is all about having a plan. You have to have a plan in place in order to know where you're going, in order to be able to measure whether the efforts that you're taking on social media are actually providing the result that you're looking for. So it starts with having a plan. You have to have some kind of social strategy. You want a plan for who are you going to talk to, where are you showing up, what kind of content are you creating. So it all starts out with planning. Then the U is all about understanding your special sauce. So this is all about what makes you you, what sets you apart, what makes you different, because this is going to be why people follow you. It's going to be why they want to work with you and do business with you. For us at Now Marketing Group, we know that our special sauce is our approach to relationship marketing, and it is our amazing team. It's why we were given by Inc. one of the best places to work for 2022. We know that this is why clients love working with us, is because we focus on relationships and because we're a team of really genuine people. So understanding what sets you apart is so important, because then you can bring that to the forefront of your messaging. So that's the H and the U. Then we're in M, which is all about make a commitment to showing up. If you want to grow on social media, you have to show up consistently. You need to be providing value and being consistent if you want to make a dent, right? And what's so important, though, is it's not just making a commitment to posting. It's making a commitment to engaging and being an active player in the social media world. So it's about posting, engaging, just being a part of the conversation that's happening. So that's the M. Then we go into A, which is all about asking your audience questions. This is gold as a brand, right? Because when you ask your audience questions, you get to know so much about them. So you get so much information that then is super helpful for you in figuring out where you're going to move forward. But it also shows your audience that you care. So by asking questions, you're helping to drive engagement, which helps your performance, but you're also helping to build relationships because you're having that back and forth conversation. That's going to be why people then come back to you time and time again, is because they're like, oh, wow, this brand really cares about me. They're really listening. So that's the A. The N is all about never stop learning. And this show is a perfect example, right? Social media is constantly changing. These platforms, new platforms are introduced all the time, new features and functionality and best practices. They're just all constantly evolving. And so as a marketer, you have to stay nimble and adaptable, and you have to make sure that you never stop learning about the industry. You never stop learning about yourself and your business, and you never stop learning about your customers and how their needs and wants are evolving so that you can show up and really meet those. And then the last step in the system, which is the S, is all about shining a light. I fully believe that this is the most important part of the process, because this is all about shining a light on your team, on your people, on your community, because social media is meant to be social. So the more that you can really showcase your team, let them speak for you, the more you can showcase your customers and let user-generated content be a major part of your content strategy, the more engagement you're going to see, the more human you're going to kind of come across as. And I really think that that is what sets both brands and individuals apart. And it's something that Jessica talks all the time about, is relationship marketing. And that's what we're doing on social media. If you're not here to build relationships, you're totally missing out on the point of social media. So that is the human system.
I love the human system. You know, what's interesting is I post the most random stuff on Instagram, right? It's just, I kind of do it as a creativity challenge where I have these 100-day blocks, right? And whatever I want to write with it. But I started asking questions, and the engagement, granted, it's a very small account, very few people are engaging, but started asking a question and people are responding, which is great, right? I've got that engagement, that conversation going on. And I just think back how the LinkedIn polls, remember maybe not this last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, but the 3 months beforehand, LinkedIn polls were everywhere, absolutely everywhere, but they were working and building those communities on social media, right?
Exactly. And I mean, especially on Instagram, there's so much functionality with Instagram stories, with different kinds of stickers that you can add into your content as little engagement pieces. Like, by adding those stickers, not only are you helping to drive engagement from your audience, but every time someone engages with those, you're sending a signal to Instagram's algorithm that your content is engaging and that people like it. And that is helping you show up sooner in stories. It's helping your audience feel more related to you. It works so beautifully in so many ways. It's helping your performance and it's helping your relationship building efforts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Chris, you want to jump in?
I gotta say, I love that acronym. I mean, I was reading through the notes you sent, and I think it's just very pertinent and just important information. And I like just how you break it down. And again, I mean, and you talk about like a secret sauces or special sauce or secret sauce, whatever you want to say. You know, the other thing is, I like how, for example, like, you know, you don't hide what your secret sauce is. It's like you just do it, you know, and like that's what makes, for example, you know, in the case of Now Marketing Group, like, makes everyone, you know, the company unique. It makes people want to work with them. So I love the idea of putting that out there. So a lot of people think like, oh, well, I've got this like secret thing. I'm going to keep it locked in a box, inside of a box, you know, and it's like, well, yeah, but you don't necessarily have to do that with everything.
Yes. So. And honestly, I have gotten so many, like a lot of feedback recently of people telling me, I love when you're dancing on your Instagram stories or you're in your reels. That I'm having dance parties in this apartment all the time, whether or not they're being posted on social media. And I just started letting that part of my personality out a few years ago. And the number of people that were like, that made me smile. And now it's something that people literally, I'll have people send me a song and be like, I think that you should add this to your dance party playlist. It's these tiny little things about us that when we give ourselves permission to let those come out, we actually end up relating to people more, because people are like, oh yeah, I love the dance party. Or it's these tiny things that, Christian, like you said, I think we often feel like, ooh, no. But this part of me, I can't show. Why not?
Right.
Right.
And like sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I was going to say, we're now starting to see this really change the corporate world, the business world, right? Where I have a client right now that's saying, we're not going to do dances. And they're very much corporate. I won't reveal what their industry is, but I did walk into their offices one day and The Cure was playing overhead. I'm like, you are a fun business that has things like The Cure playing in your offices. I think it's okay to show that. I think the last 2 years with people dyeing their hair, with the TikTok dances, with all of that, we are able to be more real, right? We're now accepting more people. We're now opening up to letting people, especially people of color, to stop code switching in the business world, right? That they can bring themselves. We don't have to be this corporate buttoned up, traditional, I'm not going to say any disparaging words, traditional business communities, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. This is really good information. So do we have another question for
I
Julia?
do have another question, but I'm going to throw in a curveball at the end too. So we want to talk about opportunities for people and brands in 2022. And I also want to talk about scaling too, right? Because whether you are a larger organization, and let's keep in mind that the Pepsis, the Nikes, the huge brands, right, have giant teams, but they only make up I think it's even less than 5% of businesses worldwide. Okay. So let's talk to the other 95% who have fewer than 20 employees, right? And many are single people or just 2 or 3 people. So how do you do this? What are some of the opportunities for them? And especially for scaling, right? Because that consistency piece, that constantly showing up, takes you away from doing your business. So go.
So I think one of the biggest opportunities right now for brands and businesses is to lean into the power of community. By leaning into your team, letting your team create content for you, by letting your customers create content for you as a brand. I mean, and this kind of relates to what you mentioned in terms of scaling. If you as a brand start to trust your team and your audience and say, hey, we want you to help make content for us. We want to make this real, or we want some photos of you guys a day in the life doing your job. This is so helpful because, first of all, it's humanizing. So there's a great opportunity right now for brands to be showing up as more human by showcasing their teams. This is going to help with recruitment efforts because people are going to see you online and be like, oh, wow, this looks like a great place to work. It looks like a place that gives their employees the opportunity to create, to show up on social media. So that's helping with recruitment. It's helping with retaining your talent. And it's helping to showcase who your brand is and your brand values. So all around, this is great content to put out there. And it's helpful in terms of scaling, because if you have your team helping to create your content for you, it then is the workload is being kind of dispersed throughout your team. And one thing that Jessica did, which was phenomenal for when I started my role as brand manager at Now Marketing Group almost 2 years ago, Jessica had a very, very specific plan outlined for the role that I was stepping into. So she knew exactly the different areas that she really needed some help. So for business owners, I know that the last thing you want to do is take the time to sit down to write out your processes. The last thing you want to do is have to map out every single step of a workflow. But doing that is going to be the only way that you're able to scale your business and actually hand something off to someone successfully. It's the mentality of sometimes you have to slow down to speed up. if you want to be able to scale as a business, it comes down to taking that time to pause and figure out what are all the different things that you're doing. How can we systemize these? How can we get these really organized in terms of the step-by-step? Because then you have the ability to bring on freelancers, to hire employees, to utilize interns, and help to kind of spread that workload out a little bit.
Okay, so yeah, go ahead.
No surprise that Jessica is organized. Absolutely no surprise.
I gotta say, I love the tip about like leveraging community, and I mean that's a very simple but brilliant like thing to leverage your community and have them help you create content. And I guarantee you probably have seen this. You just simply have to ask somebody. I bet you they're like, what? Hey, I'd love to contribute, and then you just give them exactly what you need, give them a deadline, and then now you don't have to like feel like you have to lift everything yourself. You've got a team to help you. I love that.
Exactly. And it's then like, we all know that we trust people more than we trust a logo. So as a brand, if you have loyal customers that are screaming about your brand online, it's smarter for you to tap into them and be like, hey, can you make a video for us? We want to share it online. That video is going to be so much more believable and relatable than if your brand were to be like, hey, we are amazing. Everyone thinks that they're great, but if you have other people talking about how great you are, that social media content is gold right there. So it's just a no-brainer.
Right. And my little pro tip, because I'm trying to do this with a campaign right now too, is we're asking people for stories and videos and trickling in, very slow. But if I'm talking to someone and they say, oh yeah, I really believe in what you're doing, and I ask if they'll do a video, they say, sure. I say, how about now? I have my phone with me. And you just do it for them too.
Yes, that's so smart. Just capturing it in the moment. Because like you said earlier in the show, everyone is busy. It's not that people don't want to help. It's not that they don't want to get involved. It's that they're doing their own stuff and they forget. So when you can jump on something in the moment, make it as easy as possible for people to do the thing you'd like them to do, you're going to increase the chances that you get it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Great advice. So we're going to make sure we put these in the blog post. Sarah, is there anything else we want to cover today?
I think we should talk about the tool of the week. I promise everybody we did not plan this because Julia just planted this perfectly. The tool of the week is called Wall, and it's actually showcasing user-generated content. So this is, I have to say, It's been years. It's been probably 4 years since I've used a product like this at big live events where we're encouraging our attendees to post content, to use certain tags, things like that. So what this does is it lets you create basically a wall of their content, and you can curate it. I have to say, I have been in a room full of teenagers who figured out how the tweets, how duplicate tweets kept filling up the wall in the most inappropriate way in front of our donors. And so I had to whack-a-mole them down until they figured out that I was doing it, and was not very happy with them. But this is a great way for the good people to share what's happening, key pieces of advice, key takeaways that they're getting. And what's great is that other people can see it as well and say, oh, maybe I should follow up with that speaker or find that person to talk to them more about it because I really like what they had to say about this, or I agree, or I want to talk more about it. It's also a great way to find those advocates and ambassadors too, so you can ask them to do more. Christian, Julia, do you want to jump in on this one?
I just want to say that I want to highlight real quickly just all the different things you can bring up. So you've got social platforms, you've got keywords, you've got hashtags, page mentions, for example. And I think for me, I'd say make sure you have somebody behind the scenes trying to help manage some of this. Don't just like, hey, I set it up and let it go, because, somebody can easily hijack a hashtag or, a mention, for example. So just kind of keep that in mind. Julia, anything else you want to add?
I mean, the more that you can tap into user-generated content and the more that you can use tools to help you in finding the user-generated content, That's going to help you save so much time. And again, the more that you can save time without at all sacrificing the quality of the connection that you're creating and the quality of content that you're crafting, I'm all about tap into the tools.
And one other thing I want to add about this, and I think it's actually unique. So a lot of times, you may look at this tool and say, well, you know what? I don't need it. We only do an event twice a year, for example. Why would I pay for this all throughout the year? They do have ongoing usage subscriptions and an event 30-day pass as well. So you can do on-site, hybrid, and virtual events, and tie this tool into it as well. So, and that can work for 500, 2,500, and 50,000 viewers. So,
yep. I actually use them too for reporting, right? At the end of those big events, I had to report out to the funders, and sometimes the sponsors too. I think I did one deck just for sponsors one year, where you can save them. I didn't explore too much with Wall if you could do that, but it became my social media report. That was a little more fun and interactive than a spreadsheet. So
absolutely. Very cool. Well, I got to say, this has been an amazing episode. Is there, did you have any other questions for Julia, Sarah?
No, I think if there's anything else that Julia wants to share.
Maybe how people can connect with you.
Yeah, I would love to be connected with any of you guys. I am JBethJS anywhere, or you can go to Jornsay-Silverberg.com, but I am most active on Instagram. So if you guys want to see those dance parties or just a lot of pictures of my cute Labradoodle, find me on Instagram at JBethJS. And I just want to encourage you guys to not be afraid to lean into humanity for your personal brand and for your business brand. We have just gotten so much amazing feedback at Now Marketing Group as a result of what we're doing online, because we are showcasing our team, we're showcasing our people, and it's just been amazing to see the response. So don't be shy to do that for your brand, because it'll just be an incredible result.
Fantastic. And Sarah, how can people get in touch with you?
So you can find me across social media at Sarah Monroe VT. I already said that Instagram is pretty random, and I am in the middle of a 100-day creativity challenge. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. I am using LinkedIn creator mode. So if you want to actually connect with me, be sure to press those 3 little buttons or more, whatever app you're using to find it. Scroll down to connect and drop me a note. Let me know that you saw me on Social Chatter.
Fantastic. And I'm Christian Kirsevich, and you can connect with me at, on LinkedIn, I guess. That'd be a good place to start. You can also find us at Social Chefs across all of our social platforms as well. But with that, I want to thank you for tuning in. This has been a great episode. We'll have a blog post recap. It'll go out over the weekend, socialchefs.com/SC341, with all of the topics we covered, the tool of the week, and obviously all of the great information that Julia shared as well with us. With that, we'll see you all next Thursday, right, Sarah, with Beth Ziesnes at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But with that, hope everybody has a great weekend. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.